adore my 64, my Commodore 64.
Ho 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 there, and welcome to a Let's Type episode from the Commodore 64 Appreciation Society. This is a series where I reach back into the past and type out a program from an old computer magazine, and then when I finish typing it in, I play it. 'Tis the season, everyone. The malls are packed, the nog is being spiced and spiked, and Hallmark is running amok on TV screens around the world. But it's also the perfect time to slow down for a few days, enjoy some quality time with our families, and, if we're lucky, our Commodore 64s. Today, I wanted to celebrate the season with a festive type-in from the brand new issue, yes, you heard that right, brand new, of Compute's Gazette. They fired the presses back up this past summer and are once again publishing a monthly magazine dedicated to the computers we grew up with. So far, the new Gazette has included solid articles on the retro computing scene, technical write-ups, and of course, type-ins. The type-ins in the December issue have a distinct seasonal flair, and the one I've chosen is called Gift Drop. It's a brand new game, and it looks fantastic. And this isn't our first from the new Gazette. Earlier we typed in a game called Codebreaker, basically Mastermind for the 64, from the August issue. Typing a game in from an actual printed magazine brought back a flood of memories, and the game itself is a blast to play. I've left a link to that video in the description. And if you enjoy these type-in videos, make sure to subscribe. There are plenty more on the way. But enough of that, let's get typing. Gift Drop was written by Jay Green, and let me tell you, typing in a brand new game for a 40-year-old computer is something else. It's so great seeing 64 fans dusting off their coding chops and creating new programs. In this one, you take control of Santa. He's loading up his sleigh, but his elves are a little too enthusiastic and are tossing gifts at him faster than he can handle. He needs to catch as many as he can, without dropping them, to make sure he doesn't disappoint all the children waiting for their presents. That's quite the premise, and I'm already feeling the pressure. The game is actually very similar to two type-ins I've already covered, Diamond Drop and Flash Flood, both of which are essentially clones of the classic Atari game Kaboom. And interestingly, we usually refer to these type of games as Kaboom-like, but Kaboom wasn't actually the first where you catch things falling from the top of the screen. Atari's Avalanche beat it to the punch in 1978, but Kaboom was the first breakout hit of the genre and is often used as the reference point. Gift Drop is a monster of a program. It starts with about 150 lines of BASIC, and then the data statements begin. So many data statements. Around 160 of them, most containing 20 two-digit hexadecimal numbers. That's roughly 3,200 numbers to type in. And remember, all of this has to be typed in manually. No proofreader, no MLX-style helper, nothing to catch your mistakes. This is old school, folks. Fortunately, I'm always up for a good challenge, and I'm also apparently a bit of a sucker for punishment. Speaking of code, Jay Green did a fantastic job with the comments on this one. In fact, I don't think I've ever run into a type-in that documented what was happening in such clear detail. He describes what each routine does, explains how the machine language segments get loaded into memory, and even gives a step-by-step rundown of how the sprites are configured. Comments like this are fantastic teaching tools, and they made the basic portion of this program genuinely fun to type in. Thanks, Jay. The December issue of Compute's Gazette actually includes a couple of other Christmas-themed type-ins. Mad Bad Trolls is a Q*bert-style game for the VIC-20 that looks quite good, and they also included a short program that plays Jingle Bells on the 64. Jingle Bells is a neat one, actually. It was written by Aaron McMahon when he was a teenager back in the 80s, and the exact code is what finally made it into this magazine. It took about 40 years to get published, so we'll chalk that up as a little Christmas miracle.
Miracle. It's really a sort of a miracle.
Actually, I think the real miracle is that he still had the program after all this time. My original 64 stuff is long gone, which is painful because now I see what that stuff sells for on eBay. And as for that song itself, Well, I did type it in, so maybe we'll hear it later. Man, working through this machine language section is taking a lot of effort. The code itself is easy enough to type in, but I'm stopping to verify every block of 10 or so lines, and that verification step really adds up, probably more than doubles the time.
Kirby! Aren't you finished painting that yet? There's a pile up a mile wide behind you.
It's worth it though. I'm not making a ton of mistakes, but I'm catching a few, and I absolutely do not want to go back and dig through this section again. Better to spend an extra hour now than 2 or 3 later trying to track down a rogue typo buried in a wall of hex. And this is one of those moments where I'm very glad to be using an emulator with the code right in front of me. Typing in programs for magazines checks all the nostalgia boxes, but programs like this are so much more challenging when you're flipping pages and squinting at columns of numbers. Okay, we're at the very end. I'm just validating the last few lines of code here. I feel like I caught about 20 or 30 errors in total, but my self-verification process seems to be working. You can just call me Mr. MLX. And done. I've been saving my progress at the end of every page, so this is the 3rd save so far. And check this out. This is a lot of code. It's 58 blocks on disk, which is about 14.5K. Off the top of my head, I think this might be the largest program I've typed in so far. I guess you could call it Santa-sized. And speaking of Santa, I guess it's time to see if this one runs. And here we go. I messed up the formatting for a couple of the sentences on the page, but it looks okay so far. And that little spinner is moving, which I'm going to consider a very good thing. If it stops moving, it likely means that the 64 has crashed. Actually, that little spinner is a really good indication that this is a modern game. Every game does that kind of thing nowadays, but that type of comfort feature was much less common 40 years ago. Press fire to play. After all that coding, those might be my 4 favorite words. Let's go. And how amazing is this? Everything looks terrific. I don't see any glitches at all. This could be a first. It was obviously all the double checking I did, but I don't think I've ever had a program work this well the first time through. It's another Christmas miracle.
Miracle. It's really a sort of a miracle.
This is definitely very much the same as Flash Flood and Diamond Drop. The controls are really smooth. So the idea is that Santa needs to catch the gifts and load them into the sleigh. You get points for each package you catch after they're loaded. The counters at the top show us how many we've caught and how many we've dropped. You can catch a maximum of 10 before you need to load them into the sleigh, and once you drop 25, the game is over. And like in Flash Flood, it's a good strategy to empty your gifts as often as you can. I love how the border color changes to let you know when you're close to your maximum number of gifts. It's a nice feature that lets you keep your eyes on the screen and not on the counter at the top. And here we go. The speed is starting to pick up now. Santa should do a better job managing the elves' caffeine intake. I fast forwarded a bit here. The speed has definitely picked up and I've dropped a bunch of gifts now. Oh crap. Oh, once you have 10 gifts, you can't catch any more, you lose the whole pile. That just added 10 to my drop counter. so I think it's safe to say we're down to the wire here. And yeah, done. What a terrific game. Nice, I saved Christmas. You're welcome, everyone. I noticed in the code that there are actually 3 tiers of scores. Scoring under 20 gets you the worst message, between 20 and 119 gets you a good message, and 120 plus is the best, which is what we see here. I'm going to test the other 2 scores out just to make sure everything works there. But first, I'm going to go fix the text on the front page, and oh, I guess I'll be fixing a syntax error in line 930 as well. Oh, okay, that one's easy. It's just a typo in the word print. And we'll fix those spaces. I fixed those issues, and I'm now playing a game to test the message that appears for low scores. It works, but I feel like I've disappointed Santa. And now to test out that middle tier message. Huh, I'm glad I checked because there is a 0 character trailing the summary line. So looking at the code, it's line 830. The only difference is that I have a space before the 5 in brackets. That can't be it, can it? On second thought, I think that was the problem. Check this out. Printing SPC5 without the space just prints what I'm assuming are 5 spaces. But add the space and the 64 thinks that SPC is a variable name, which is strange. You'd think the space shouldn't matter. But either way, problem solved. Let's save it one last time. Now before we go, I feel like I want to play the game one last time. My 147 score from before isn't sitting very well and I want to beat it. And I also mentioned playing Jingle Bells from Aaron McMahon's Type-In from the same issue. Let's add a soundtrack to this. Very nice. He also provided a bit of code to make it a bit pluckier. Let's try that. I think I like that version a bit better. Either way, very well done. Okay, back to the action, and I have a high score to beat. I'm doing pretty well here. I've already beat my last score, but I'll bet I can reach 300. Those little guys are sure being reckless with the gifts. I hope there isn't anything breakable in those things. I feel the end coming. And done. 302 seems pretty good, but it's beatable. If any of you type this in and try it yourself, definitely let me know your score. I'm always up for a good high score competition. This has been a lot of fun. Thanks so much to the guys at Compute's Gazette for passing over the games and for keeping the spirit alive on these old systems. And a big thanks to Jay Green for such a great game. And to all of you, Merry Christmas. Enjoy the festivities, and I hope your holidays are filled with some classic 64 goodness.
Miracle. It's really a sort of a miracle.
Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider leaving a like or subscribing. And I'd love to hear your thoughts about this Type-In and also about your Christmas C64 memories. Share them in the comments. Hope to see you again.